Hi children, welcome back. Let's have another session on ecosystem. This is a continuation of the previous video. Let's talk about decomposition in this class. Right, here we go. Yes, now decomposition, if you can see here, where's my pen? Right. So decomposition, it's a process wherein raw materials are used. The raw materials are detritus and litter. Detritus refers to above ground and below ground dead and organic matter, or dead matter of both plants and animals, while litter refers to only the fallen off leaves, fruits, bark, plant and all. So litter purely refers to the plant matter, while detritus is both plant and animal. So litter is above the ground, while detritus is below as well as above the ground. The energy for decomposition also comes from the same raw material, detritus and litter. So who does decomposition? Decomposers or reducers. And we learned in the previous video there are two basic types of decomposers, also called microconsumers: invertebrates like earthworm and termites, and fungi, bacteria and flagellates. I named them as A and B for further notification. Now, these two types of decomposers, they convert complex organic into simple inorganic stuff by releasing their enzymes. Now, where does decomposition occur? Decomposition occurs in terrestrial ecosystem, it occurs in the upper layer. In aquatic ecosystem, it occurs in the bottom layer. Now, we all know there are three steps in decomposition. Number one, fragmentation, then leaching, catabolism. This NCERT says these all happen simultaneously. Now, detritus or litter, we can say detritus and litter, with the help of environmental conditions, decompose, and then the process has two important things again: humification and mineralization. The formation of humus is humification, and humus is then converted into carbon dioxide, water and minerals with the help of B. What is B? This B is otherwise catabolism. The F, fungi, bacteria, flagellates do this job. Then the process of converting humus into these minerals, you call it as mineralization. Now, let's see what detritus is all about. Very important point. Now, detritus is DCRV. Detritus is dark. Humus. Let's talk about humus. Humus is dark. Humus is colloidal. Humus is the R refers to reservoir of nutrients, rich in organic matter and resistant to microbial action. It's very slow to decomposition. Very important point, children. Humus is dark colloidal matter, which has three R's. It's a reservoir of nutrients, it is rich in organic matter, and it resists microbial action. So once humus is formed, it is very time consuming to decompose the humus because it is resistant to microbial action. It can work as a very good resource of organic matter. Right? Now let us see what makes up the process faster and slower. Decomposition can occur fast under these conditions, and it occurs slow under these conditions. Now, for faster decomposition, the detritus must contain more amount of nitrogen and water soluble matter. On the other hand, if it is slow, it means there is more amount of lignin, chitin and cellulose. Now, optimum temperatures for fast decomposition are warmth and moisture, and on the contrary, for decomposition to occur slow, either the temperature is very low or very high, or moisture may be very much or very less. Now, warmth and moisture, you learned in human health and diseases. These are the two important conditions for ringworm fungi, right? There are three genera of fungi, right? So these fungi which cause ringworm need warmth and moisture. Now let's come back to decomposition. So decomposition requires more oxygen, so it is dependent on aerobic conditions, while anaerobic conditions will slow down decomposition. Let's talk about the energy flow. Energy flow follows first law of thermodynamics, second law of thermodynamics, and Lindeman's 10% law. So what is first law of thermodynamics? It says energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred from one to the other form. What does second law of thermodynamics say? Let us say this is A, and A is getting converted into B. Okay, now and there is energy that is being flown. So whenever a process involves energy flow, definitely it also involves loss of heat energy. This is second law of thermodynamics. I repeat, any process which is involved in energy flow definitely loses some kind of heat energy. This is second law of thermodynamics. So this lost energy is called entropy, right? Lost heat energy is called entropy. Now, if you can see this tropic level 1, tropic level 2, tropic level 3 and 4. Now here producers, primary producers, the plants, for example, they have 1000 joules of energy. If it is Lindemann's 10% law, only 10% of energy goes to the next higher level, meaning 1000. 10% of 1000 is 100. In the 100 joules, only 10% goes to the next level. In this 10, only 10% goes to the next. So as you are going ahead of the tropic levels, what is happening? The energy is being decreased. So go ahead of the tropic level, energy is decreased. So that is why we don't have more than 4 to 5 tropic levels. Now, the major conduits of energy flow, very, very, very important. The major conduits of energy flow, if it is, grazing food chain, the major conduit, the major conduit in aquatic ecosystem is GFC, while the major conduit in terrestrial ecosystem is DFC. And how do you memorize this? Remember as TEDDY. TE for terrestrial, D for DFC. See, terrestrial, DFC. In terrestrial ecosystem, the major energy flow takes place by DFC. Then, how do you remember GFC? Remember as AquaGuard. AquaGuard. Aqua refers to aquatic ecosystem, G refers to GFC. Right, children? So, in aquatic ecosystem, the major conduit of energy flow is GFC. Remember this. Then from producers to herbivores, 10% of energy is transferred, and likewise from herbivores to carnivores, again 10% of energy is transferred. You have a couple of questions that might be asked. You please refer to those. Now let's talk about food webs. Now food webs, food relationships are actually very complex, and these relationships become complex due to the presence of omnivores. Very, very, very important. Right? Now let's say this is grass eaten up by insect. Insect is eaten up by a sparrow. Sparrow is eaten up by a snake. Now here's this sparrow is an omnivore. If it has insect as its source, it will eat the insect. But if there is no insect, it can feed on the grass as well. So sparrow here is a herbivore as well as a carnivore. So it is an omnivore. So the sparrow is making this food chain actually a food web. So who makes the food relationships complex? The omnivores, because omnivores have interconnections with different animals of different food chains. All these different food chains interconnect, making up the food web. Now, what is the use of food web? Food webs make ecosystems self-serve, self-sustainable, self-interactive, and self-regulatory. Food webs also give an organism alternate food source. Now, let us say insect is no more there. Sparrow can feed on the grass. And now food webs also give time for an organism to recover. Now let us say all grass is done. So sparrows will die. But then sparrows don't die because they eat insects. Meanwhile, the grass has time to again recover. Now let's talk about biogeochemical cycles. Now these cycles are of two types, gaseous cycles, sedimentary cycles. Now nutrients here are gases or vapors, on the other hand they are minerals. Reservoir is atmosphere and hydrosphere, while here it is lithosphere, the rock and soil. This is called, gaseous cycles are called perfect cycles because utilization equals availability. While sedimentary cycles are called imperfect because utilization is either less or more than the availability. Utilization meaning the plants utilize and organisms utilize these gases, that is utilization. And when gases come back, the utilized gases come back to the source, to the reservoir, you call it as availability. So this is tree here. Tree takes up CO2, this is utilization. CO2 again comes out into the atmosphere, this is availability. Utilization, availability. When utilization matches availability, it is called perfect cycle. When this doesn't happen, this is imperfect cycle. So carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen are perfect cycles, while phosphorus, sulfur and calcium are imperfect cycles. Let's quickly talk about the carbon and the phosphorus cycles. Now, the reservoir for carbon in the carbon cycle is ocean, also the atmosphere, while for phosphorus it is rock and soil. Now very important NCERT point, oceans regulate the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. Now utilization, so plants utilize CO2 through photosynthesis, and by this way plant is able to fix 4 into 10 power 13 kilograms of carbon per annum. Now on the other hand, plants utilize phosphorus because phosphorus is one of the critical elements along with nitrogen and potassium. Animals use phosphorus to make their shell, bone, skeleton. Now availability, utilization is done, availability is back to the resource. Now we respire and release carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. Rocks weather and weathering process, makes up soil. So by the way, dissolved phosphate, adds up to the soil, again giving phosphate back to the soil. Now this is very important, children. The total global carbon in the dissolved form is 71% in the ocean, and in the atmospheric form is 1%. Let's talk about ecological services. Robert Constanza and his team brought about, if at all we can put a price tag on the ecosystem services, how much that would be. Soil formation is 50%, recreation and nutrient cycles less than 10%, climate regulation and habitat for wildlife 6% each. Then let's see this. Let's see, the first box is ecosystem 1 and the third box is ecosystem 2, and there's a place where these two ecosystems meet, and this is called ecotone. For example, there's a place where marine and terrestrial ecosystems meet, and that is called mangrove. When forest and desert meet, the ecosystem is called grassland. When fresh water and marine water meet, it is estuary. So mangroves, grasslands and estuaries are the best examples for ecotone. So ecotone is very, very, very rich in species diversity, because this is a combination of both ecosystem 1 and ecosystem 2. There is so much of species diversity. Now we get this very important point, children. If an ecosystem is easily destroyed, you call it as low stability. If the same ecosystem recovers fast after destruction in some time, you call it as high resilience. So any ecosystem which can be easily destroyed but it can recover as fast as it can is called low stability, high resilience type. Now open system, example energy flow. Closed system, example nutrient cycles. This is very important. Open system, energy flow. Closed system, nutrient cycles. Thank you. We'll meet again in the next video with biodiversity and environmental issues. Have a good day. Bye-bye.